Hey guys, I'm Tom the Tech Chap, and this is the new Pixel 3a, and I think Google have nailed it. I mean, it's £400, the same in dollars, which is near enough half the price that the Pixel 3 was when it launched back in November. Find me a phone for that kind of money that can take a portrait shot like this and a night shot like this. The rear camera on this thing is pretty much identical to the Pixel 3 in terms of image quality and features. It is a little bit slower because of the mid-range processor, but you're getting one of the best, if not arguably the best camera on any phone right now, particularly for portraits and night shots, for £400. So the Pixel 3a has a 5.56-inch display, but it also has a bigger brother, the 6-inch Pixel 3a XL, which is just a terrible name. The only difference is the screen size, the battery, 3000 versus 3700 mAh, and the price, £400 versus £470. They both have the same polycarbonate two-tone design, the same Full HD Plus resolution, same camera, same Snapdragon 670 processor, 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage. I think personally I would go for the XL. It's only £70 more, and you are getting that bigger screen and the bigger battery, so it lasts a couple of hours longer. Then again, the smaller 3a does have a slightly sharper screen, 441 versus 401 ppi, although you'll struggle to really tell the difference. Plus it is easier to use one-handed. It feels more like an iPhone SE or a Galaxy S10e, plus it's cheaper. Whichever one you go for though, you won't be disappointed. These run stock Android 9, pure, clean, vanilla Android. So there's no bloatware or ugly third-party skins on top. Plus, you'll be among the first to get new updates and the latest versions of Android as they come out. I mean, with some brands like Samsung Galaxy, you may be waiting up to a year to get the next version of Android. And when they come with cool new features and, probably more importantly, security updates, well, you want to be the first to get it. Now let's talk about performance, and as I say, the 3a does feel a little bit slower than the Pixel 3 with its faster Snapdragon 845. Apps don't load quite as fast and photos take a second or two to process, but you'll only really notice that if you have them both side by side. In practice, the 3a feels great to use, and it's still more than fast enough to run the most graphically intensive games out there. Plus, it's less power hungry than the higher end chips, so battery life is actually very good. Both the 3a and the XL have bigger batteries than their flagship counterparts, and paired with the smaller screens and the lower end hardware, by the end of a normal day I had 27% of my battery left on the 3a compared to 32% on the XL. It's still not best in class, but it is better than the more expensive Pixel 3s, so it'll easily get you through a full day, but you'll want to charge it overnight. Now it does have fast charging, 15 minutes will get you up to 50%, but there's no wireless charging unfortunately. So there are a few compromises here. No wireless charging, the body's made of plastic, which still feels good and it is nice and lightweight, but doesn't feel quite as premium in the hand as the Pixel 3. This is the Pixel 3 XL. Also, the bezels are pretty chunky on the top and bottom, although it leaves room for the speakers. And actually, I think if anything, I prefer this sort of symmetrical bezel look than, well, that, which is just hideous. I'm not sure what you prefer. But there's also no IP water resistance rating, there's no face unlocking, no in-screen fingerprint reader, just a physical one on the back, no HDR screen, no dual SIM or SD card slot, and the specs are decidedly mid-range. But then again, you do get stereo speakers. They're a little tinny but good enough. And personally, I still prefer physical fingerprint readers on the back. They're just more reliable in my experience. We also get a great AMOLED display, although it's not the brightest. We also get Active Edge, so you can squeeze the sides of the phone to quickly open the Google Assistant or an app. But most importantly, we get a headphone jack. Both the 3a and the 3a XL come with a 3.5mm headphone jack, something that the flagship Pixels do not have. So if you have a very nice pair of wired earphones and you don't fancy using an adapter or going for that dongle life, then that could be quite a good reason to buy this. Let's go back to the camera though, and for me this is by far the biggest selling point of the Pixel 3a. To get a flagship quality camera for £400 that can take photos like this, well, if the camera is important to you, the 3a is a no-brainer. Compared to other top-end phones like the Huawei P30 Pro and Galaxy S10 Plus, it does lack dedicated telephoto and ultra-wide lenses, but it's also half the price. And whatever magic Google does in their R&D labs to make the software for this camera, what they can do with just one lens is seriously impressive. With night sight, HDR Plus, and super res zoom, which offers surprisingly decent results from digital zoom, it's got a lot going for it. Now personally, I think the Pixel and the iPhone XS are my favorite phones for taking portrait shots at the moment. And while the 3A does zoom in quite a lot when you take one, you can see the difference here next to a live focus shot from the S10 Plus. I think it looks great and you get really natural colors. And then of course we have night sight. This came to the Pixel 3 a few months after launch via an update, but you get it out of the box with the 3A. It takes 2 or 3 seconds to capture the photo, and it's basically taking multiple images as your hand is shaking, and then fusing them all together, doing some fancy camera trickery, and then producing photos like this. Again, even side by side with the S10 Plus, the Pixel just blows it out of the water when it comes to low light shots. So that's photos, but what about video? Well, I'm shooting this at 4K 30, that's the highest resolution and frame rate you can do. There's no 4K 60 option. It is a beautiful day, and I think this footage, this video looks great. It's also very smooth, it's using EIS, but you'll notice while it does help get rid of the judder from my footsteps, it can sometimes look a little artificial, a bit like a drone camera panning. It sort of has these sort of artificial digital little changes as the EIS is trying to keep up. But overall I think it's really good, lovely dynamic range, great colors, 4K 30 is all you need really, and yeah, the rear camera for video is also very good. Flipping it around to the front and we just have a single camera. There's no dual lens selfie setup like you get on the Pixel 3 and the XL, which means combined with the slightly narrower aperture of this, it's not quite as good as those flagship versions. It also means the field of view is just a little bit narrower, but it's still very, very nice, and even with the sun beating down on me, it does a pretty good job of evening out those highlights. And well, you could also tell me how you think the microphone is coping with the birds chirping and cars driving around. But yeah, even for selfie video, maxed out at 1080p 30, so there's no 4K option unlike the Galaxy S10 Plus. But again, with all of this stuff, you have to bear in mind that this is a £400 phone. It's like half the price of any flagship. It's pretty good. Now, usually what happens when my friends ask me what phone should I buy, I start rambling on about Galaxy S10 Pluses and Huawei P30 Pros and iPhone XS's, but then almost always that's way out of their budget. So then I suggest the latest OnePlus. They start at a little over £500, and you get a lot for your money. But considering this is over £100 cheaper than that, plus it has a much better camera and stock Android, well, it's a great alternative. But then you have the Xiaomi's and the Honors of this world with their super budget flagship phones. And they are worth considering for sure, but I would rather take something like this with this software and this camera than say the Poco Phone F1 with a Snapdragon 845. Of course, hardware specs is important, but user experience, camera quality, the software processing that goes into this, which honestly Google's just leading with at the moment, I'd rather go for this, even if apps take half a second longer to load. So the Pixel 3 and the 3 XL didn't sell that well. I even wrote "don't buy this" in the title of my review. But at this price point, with that camera and being the first to get updates, well, I've changed my tune. You should definitely buy this. What do you reckon though? Would you consider buying this? And if so, would you go for the smaller one or the bigger one? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more of my stuff, then make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below, and I'll see you guys next time right here on the Tech Chat.